Hello, everybody, and welcome back and happy Monday to you. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed your weekend. Was out there enjoying some time in the sun. You know, it was a hot one out there this weekend. So hopefully, you guys was out just maybe staying cool or something like that. But also, I want to say thank you guys for joining me today for another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. You guys know what to do. It says it down on the bottom. Follow us on YouTube, the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But also, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, do me a favor, share this with them and help us get the content out there to them. And without further ado, I have an amazing guest for you guys today, as always. And guys, sit back and enjoy and help me welcome to the show my guest, Rubysam Youngz. Hi.
Hi, Tony.
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Sam Youngz, but professionally known by my full name, which is Rubysam Youngz. I'm actually in the UK, in the Midlands in the UK, coming to you today. It's hard to put labels on stuff, what you do, etc. But yeah, in a nutshell, I work with energy healing, specializing in emotional and spiritual well-being, and I also incorporate spirit in that via psychic mediumship.
Nice. Now, when we talk about energy, because I know the energy can be defined in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about energy, can you give us a little bit more specific? Because I know we've talked about this before, right? And we've talked about when we lose people, like the flesh is gone, but the energy is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of like what you're saying in that aspect, or?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, really. That energy can mean many things to many people.
Mm-hmm.
But we are energetic beings. We are a spirit, a soul, having a human experience,
Right.
and that is the physical part of us, that physical body, the physical world around us. But energy is internal inside of us. We have many different energetic systems. You might have heard of chakras, meridians, and then energy is external to us, which our connection to nature, the cycles and rhythms of nature, the sun, the moon, the planets, the universe as well. So everyone's going to have different beliefs on that, on whether once you take your last breath in life and you die, that's it, you're dead. That there's nothing else. That's just it. That's the end of that life. I believe, and it's just my belief, that we actually live on in the form of energy, just that our soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, has made a transition out of that physical body. And again, everyone's going to have a different belief of where that energy goes. But I believe we have an eternal soul and spirit.
I like that because I believe the same thing. I believe that we just, like as you said before, we just really transfer ourselves to a different form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which allows us to be truly free in the world, and to be able to connect with people and to be able to tell the stories. Because I think I was just talking about this the other day with someone on the series that I'm doing right now, and I was telling them, like, "Oh, do you ever feel as if you've repeated the things in your life before?"
Yeah.
Right? Like the story that you tell, it's almost like it's like deja vu. Like we've lived this before, but you just come back and then you get better at doing it, right?
Yeah.
And when hearing you say that, I was like, yeah, I could definitely understand that part right there. But now, but also nature, right?
Mm.
Is it for us to be able to connect with nature? Having that connection between your feet and the actual ground, not concrete. to be
Yeah.
able to sit with a tree and feel that energy, right? Everything connects to everything else, so to speak.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
we are connected beings, as you say, to everything else that we are. And as human beings, we have become disconnected
yes,
from
yeah,
our feelings. We, and again, talking about energy, emotions are energy in motion, and we can become stuck. Grief, obviously, is a
hmm,
very heavy, painful emotion. It's at the low end scale of emotional frequency. Um, but we can learn so much from nature of the continual life, death, rebirth scenario in the seasons. Spring is rebirth, summer we're expansive, we're growing, autumn, it's coming to the end, coming to the end of life, and then winter is sort of that death phase, the dark phase,
mm,
where we retreat. Um, and as humans, we do try to avoid our emotions, and
yes, we
that's
do.
we become then disconnected from who we are. And when we try and avoid emotions and not process them or face them, that's when they can get stuck in the body and make life a real struggle. Grief
Right.
being a very big part of that.
And that's very true. Very true. And we've talked about grief before, right? And maybe like I love everything about grief. For me, it's
Yeah,
exciting, right? Since this exciting thing when I say it, people often look at me and go, "What in the world you talk like? You don't understand." Like I love everything about it. I love how it changes people.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It always excites me to see people when they're going through the process of grief, who they become,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they see them kind of work out the hard parts, and to see their version of rock bottom, but also to see them
yes,
turn back around, because you have to. Here's the thing that and again, this is my belief system. You have to go through the stages of it. You have to hit your version of rock bottom in order to know who you are as you begin to grow and learn, right?
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
sense of appreciation and gratitude that comes along with it. And now, don't get me wrong. Look, there's some people who do not make it.
yeah,
They get
yeah,
stuck, right? Or worse. I've been through the whole being stuck and losing everything and almost taking my own life. But I
yeah,
look back on it now and I go, well, I was just one of the fortunate ones that came about. And now I look at it and it's like, I see other people's spaghetti noodle. And I go, ooh, can we just pull on both sides and just see what happens, right? Maybe do a little unweave in there, and kind of see where it takes you, right? Not to change the outcome of it,
yeah,
but that they can experience it on such a deeper level.
yeah,
That
yeah.
energy that comes along with it, right?
Mhm.
Um, and to me, that's the exciting part. That's the exciting part. Now, I want to ask you, when can you share some of your grief experience with the audience as well?
Yeah. So for anyone who's listening to this, and you are at your bottom and in that depth of grief, um, it can feel like there's no way out. There's just no way out. And it is true, life will never be the same again if you have lost someone
Right.
via death. But I agree with you, Tony, that in time, once you've processed it, it can become a growth opportunity, and it can change your perspective on life. And for some people, like yourself and me, it can help you change your life for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I mean, you know, I it wasn't until my 30s, I guess, I'd always associated grief with someone dying. You know, I didn't realize at that point that grief can be felt for a loss of any kind, not just a death. And once I started to understand that, it helped me understand how I struggled in life. I will talk about bereavements though that I've had. So I was 14 when I had my first close family member die, which was a sudden death. And at that age, I guess I didn't really understand what was going on, to be quite honest. And we didn't really talk about it in the family either. You know, it was sort of avoided. Everyone was trying to deal with their own grief. But as I look back now, every time I've had a bereavement in my family, it's allowed me to question the meaning of life. And I've sort of deepened the spiritual side of me. So at 14, it was my granddad, and I became fascinated with energy healing and crystals.
Okay.
And then 10 years later, 24, after a long illness, my grandmother passed away. So that was not a sudden death. It had been a long, slow decline in health. After she passed away, I was searching even more for the meaning of life. I was like, oh, you know, it's just so raw and painful and heartbreaking when you have that loss, isn't it? You know, grief is such a raw, sort of primal scream of pain. So after she passed away, I was searching again. I was like, well, you know, what's the point? What's the meaning of life? And this is when I discovered sort of the Buddhist approach to it, samsara, which is about the cycle of life, death, rebirth, and breaking the cycles of the life you find yourself in. As you touched on before, you know, you might be repeating patterns. There might be repeating patterns throughout your whole family. And I know we will touch on this in a later podcast, so I won't go too much into that on here. Then in my 30s, my brother passed away. And that was a sudden death, not totally unexpected. And I won't go into too much details, but it wasn't a natural death. And after his death, we had been separated when we were young as children because our parents divorced. And after his death, I sought bereavement counselling, for a better word. You know, I received that through the company I was working for, and I had to sort of open a gas shock moment when the therapist across from me said, "You've been grieving your brother since the age of 10." And that's how old I was when we got separated, and it just mystified me. I just couldn't get my head around it. I was like, "What do you mean? No, he's just died now." And she's like, "No, you've been grieving him for a long time." And then this opened up the world to me of like grief isn't just experienced from a death. And then I realized, you know, I'd been grieving the childhood I wish I had instead of the one I had, because our parents had divorced, you know, separated and moved around a lot. And that led me to explore then about emotional healing, the mind-body connection, how it impacts your health. Whilst I was born with a number of genetic conditions, me not facing what happened to me in life had led to secondary other health conditions as well. So much so that I had to give up my career as an accountant because I wasn't well enough to work anymore. So that was another grief thing I had. The career I built up over decades was no longer there. But that was a turning point in my life. I hit rock bottom. I hit the point I no longer want to be here either. And then that's when I retrained in different holistic therapies, different emotional healing therapy, you know, EFT, spiritual healing, trauma courses, and allowed myself to be the person I was literally born to be, really, because I hadn't been that person due to childhood. I've always experienced sort of a connection to the spirit world from young. That was just natural. It didn't seem weird to me,
Right.
weird to other people, but to me it wasn't.
Right.
So that was the turning point. And then in my 40s, a theme for my family actually is estrangements,
Mhm.
you know, relationships, and that carried on um, until I sought to heal my inner wounds and make decisions about how I wanted the rest of my life to be. And then recently, just last year, after a long illness, I lost my mum, her death, and again that was expected. It was very slow decline, awful. Um, that was about 8 months ago now, and even with all the tools I've got in my toolkit and the support and that around me, you can't rush the process of grief.
Mhm.
You know, you can't, and you know, it's just now really I'm sort of emerging back out into the world again because out of all the deaths,
Mhm.
my mother's death has been the most hard hitting for me to try and deal with.
Well, first I want to say thank you for being on the show. You know, because that's very recent. That's
Yeah,
very recent, and you know, I know how, and I have a better understanding um, of the relationships that we build and how hard it can be.
yeah.
So I want to say thank you for being vulnerable in that sense as well. That's truly amazing. And you know, for everyone out there, you know, that's we all know how those can be. So you know, hey, I commend her on her bravery, please, and her vulnerability in doing these things. But I want to touch on something as well, right? Because how
I
we
just see
in our
Lincoln's here.
topic, uh, I often I often would say, you know, in the work that I do with men, I say, you know, we help men heal the physical, the emotional, mental, and the spiritual.
Yeah,
So I look at the person as a complete individual.
yes,
And I often tell them, if you neglect one more than the other, or you know, if you neglect one part of these, you're definitely going to feel it.
yeah,
And you know, a lot of people are like, "What do you mean?" I go, "You trust me, you're going to feel it, and it's going to throw you for a loop because you're not going to think about it, but this is what it is." And I love that you said when you realized that you had been grieving your brother since the age of 10 years old. A
mm,
lot of people never make that connection as well,
yeah,
you know. And until you get to talking with them and they say, "Oh man, you know, I've been grieving this relationship," or you know, for X amount of time, you know, the time where things started going different to the time they were either separated or divorced or whatever, right?
yeah,
And then they go, you know, and we haven't been together in over 20 years. I'm still grieving it, right? And I have to tell them, you know, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. You have to go in and heal that part because what ends up happening is that if you don't heal it, you will go through relationship after relationship after relationship, and you will blame the other person
hmm,
because you hadn't healed from the previous.
yeah,
And so, you know, in my thoughts is like instead of playing a victim,
yes,
instead of bleeding on everyone, take some time to yourself
definitely,
to get to not only heal, but get to know this new version of you.
yeah,
And then you ask yourself, was it really that person's fault?
hmm,
What were the things that you could do so you could be better, be a better human being, and things like that?
yeah,
And then I started thinking about it, you know, as we were talking about the repetition in our lives,
Yeah.
the people who have gone before us, it also took me back to a thought of shadow people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, and when I say that, it sounds strange, but it's a real thing. Right. I could be sitting down somewhere and I'll get an image going past me, but when I turn around, it's not there. But I know it was there. I know I see it, right?
Yes.
But it's never there. So I mean, there's a few things that I said right there, and you can choose whichever one you want to start to unpack. So yeah, I suppose that. What do you think about those?
Well, I'll start with the shadow people because that was the recent one. My brain. So yes, can relate to that. As I touched on from childhood, I've had that experience. They are there, and then it takes a lot. Let's use the word energy again. It takes a lot of energy for a spirit to show themselves, as it were, to come, to be on the frequency we're in the human sort of space. So yes, if you see something out of the corner of the eye, the shadow people, you know, and again, just from my experience, that is a very real experience, and it is someone wanting to let you know they're there.
Yeah.
Your other points, and I can't remember all three now.
Carrying that grief within us and healing those different parts. So I think if I was to say, it's the chakras, right?
Yes.
Healing those different chakras and how we carry that grief within our body.
Yeah, and I sort of spread that message, as you put, that until we deal with our own stuff, we can't move forward, basically. And as you touched on, we can feel a victim of life. We can feel a victim at the hands of everyone else because we're not connected to who we are, and we're trying to avoid, and it can be, I mean, this again was a pattern for me and in my family of using external things to make us feel better: alcohol, shopping, drugs. Now in modern age, it's like being on social media, scrolling through phones and stuff. So we're seeking that quick fix to make us feel better, but we're not doing the inner work of, well, why? What is that making me feel so awful and pain and so unhappy? And yes, the chakra systems are one of the energy systems. We have 7 main chakras in the bodies. There are chakras below our feet. There are chakras above us as well. But generally, many people have heard about the 7 main chakras, which is the root at the bottom of your spine, going right up to your crown at the top of your head. And if we're looking at grief and being stuck, our root chakra, sort of a tip in the word, is sort of our foundations in life, our family, our security, our primal survival needs. If you've heard of the Maslow's triangle, that's the bottom layer of security, financial, material, family, and that. And if that chakra's out of balance, and grief can whack that out of balance, you're going to have to address that. Our sacral chakra is our emotional relationships center. So again, if you've lost someone or had a breakup, that chakra can be easily taken out of balance as well. And as you said about repeating relationships, you may find yourself repeating relationships that are unhealthy for you, and not really understanding why, because you haven't done that inner work. We move up to the solar plexus, which is just above the belly button. Yellows, that's the root's red, sacral orange, solar plexus yellow. Our solar plexus is our sort of personal power center. It's our joy center. And again, if that's in balance, you can become depressed, unhappy, and just feel that victim energy. There is a lot more to this, but I'm trying to keep it concise and as simple as possible.
I was
And then
following.
yeah, so and then the heart chakra, which is the fourth chakra, this is the center of love. This is the center, sort of the portal between earth and heaven, I call it. And generally, the first four chakras that are affected by grief in whatever way, that need to be looked at, processed, to then be able to move up to the throat chakra, which is all about expressing yourself, expressing your feelings and not stuffing them down. But you've got to work on the foundations, etc., to be able to get to that point to say your truth and not hide how you're feeling, not hide what's happening for you. And then we sort of move up then to the third eye, which is the psychic center. And this is, again, going up the emotional scale, sort of becoming aware of life beyond the human life and connecting into your intuition. That's also in the sacral and solar plexus, but this is sort of the third eye opening up. And then the crown chakra is the chakra that connects you to everything else. And whatever you want to call that, whether it's the universe, God, source, energy, whatever your belief is of there's a higher thing than just us. And that's that connection. But we have to do that foundational work of facing our fears, facing the emotions. And as humans, we are hardwired to not do that. Our brain tries to keep us safe in what we know, and it takes a lot. It's not an easy, I'm not going to say it's easy, and it's an evolving process. There's many layers to it that you have to peel off to change neural pathways, to change what you're thinking. But it all begins with the feeling and emotion first, just a millisecond. It's the heart-brain connection, heart-brain-body connection.
I want to touch on that a little bit. This is something that I've been throwing around for quite some time, and the more and more I dive into it, the more and more I begin to unpack it and better explain it to others. I'm actually going to be doing a video on it once I got it down pat. But I love the fact that you mentioned that we as human beings, we've been hardwired not to really acknowledge our emotions, right? In ways, and so we tend to neglect ourselves as we begin to go on a path of tinkering around with the thought of healing. And the reason I say that is because, and I'll get your thoughts on this, I honestly believe that we forget to earn the trust within ourselves as we going through what we need to go through, right? Yeah. And and I was telling somebody this. I was like, just like anything, trust is earned. They go, what do you mean? I go, well, think about it this way. You're going through something right now that you don't quite understand. Your first instinct is to fight. But what are you fighting? Your body is telling you to do one thing, and your mind is telling you to do something else. So there's a conflict. I was like, but your body knows exactly what you need.
Definitely.
But it's hard because life in general has taught you to be cautious about who you trust and who you let in.
Yeah.
Now, if you can take that and apply to yourself, you actually have to earn that trust with yourself. Trust that your body is going to guide you where you need to go or get you where you need to do, to nourish, to sleep, all of these different things. You have to earn that trust, because just the same way that you put up borders with everyone else and you make them jump through those borders, well, there's a lot to unpack there just for you, because eventually we wear so many masks. And once we pull off one, there's another one. You have to get to the very bare minimum. And now you have to earn that trust with yourself. Trust that you want to heal.
Yeah.
Trust that it is necessary for you to heal,
Mm-hmm.
right? In this process. So and that's just my thoughts on it, right? Like trust is truly earned when you, especially when you're grieving after loss. You trust the reality that you've just now been introduced to.
Yeah.
Trust the people that have come into, and trust not everyone is there to do you wrong. And trust that life will provide you, or source, God, whatever you believe, will
Mm-hmm.
provide you everything that you need. You just have to be open to receive.
Yeah.
After that trust is earned.
Yeah.
What get your thoughts on that?
I just want to touch, because I've just seen a comment from some Lincoln Smith saying
Yes.
that his cousin was killed 3 days ago. So I just want to send my love to you, Lincoln, because that was very recent. And yeah, just send you love to you and your family. I'm so sorry to hear that. Trust. Yes. Our body holds so much wisdom. It's sending a message, there's loads of work on this. Gabor Mate, I can't remember the author's name, who wrote The Body Keeps a Score and The Body Doesn't Lie. Our body is trying to communicate to us all the time. And as you said at the start of this, we have to look at ourselves as a holistic being. And if one aspect of that, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, social, goes out of whack, it's going to impact, have a ripple effect. And the longer you ignore something, or that can be when it becomes a problem. And the trust aspect, I think you're so right on that. Of we have to learn to trust what our body is telling us.
Mm-hmm.
And you might need help to do that, because you might not be aware of what different parts of your body, who might be now displaying physical symptoms, what that message is trying to convey to you.
Right, right.
So if we just, I'll just keep it on topic of this. Grief is generally stored and held in the upper chest area.
Yeah.
So a lot of people end up with chest infections, sore throats, maybe the shoulders start aching. It can be that you start having anxiety. You might start having blood circulation issues. This is all the grief which is being stored in. So if you, I know after my brother passed away, I kept having repeated chest infections and grief, because of the intensity and the contracted energy of it, the heaviness of it. It does reduce your immune system as well, on a physical level. So you might be more susceptible to picking up bugs and that. But there is a common link between upper chest physical symptoms can be linked to grief, and that is a sign, a message to you that your body's like indicating to you that there's something here to be worked on here and released to help you move forward. And again, on the trust issue, when you are in that really dark place, down that hole, losing someone, if we talk about just bereavement, or being made redundant as well, or being cheated on in a relationship, your trust in the world can be broken.
Yes.
Quite easily. And that's, all the things we've spoke about today are a normal and natural human response to grief. So what I would say for that is, connect in with yourself, but also connect with others that you truly trust or have trusted in the past, when it just feels like your whole world's just crumbled around you. You know, cling on to the past trust that you had, even if right now you think that trust is broken. But it can be very hard to reach out to ask for help as well, like you said about the different masks that we all wear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can, one of the things actually with grief, and something that I've done all my life and sort of was instilled into me, is like, we've got to be strong, as if, and it's a very British thing as well, the stiff upper lip. You know, we've got to go around not talking about how we really are, and
Yeah.
I'm fine, when actually we're not at all fine. We're broken hearted. And I don't think that anyone's broken, by the way, you know, but I just want to use the word broken hearted.
Right.
Heartbreak. And I acknowledge how hard it can be to admit that you're not okay and to reach out for help. But I do offer sort of that guidance to you that if you can, it will start making your life easier to live.
I agree. I think most of it, words, right? Defining defining how you feel.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you. I have a hard time telling people that I'm broken because I'm not a
Yeah.
thing, right? Although that's the language that people use nowadays. And I go, well, if try switching it up a little bit, you know, like let's be honest. You're not broken. You're not a
Mm.
thing, you know, because if it was a thing or a bone or something like that, you can go to the doctor and get that, right? This is different. And I had someone tell me not too long ago, well, how are you going to tell me? But I was like, well, I'm not telling you. I would never do anything like that. But I just want to give you a different word to use.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, what do you mean? I go, well, instead of saying this right here, how about being honest and saying that you're hurt?
Mm.
Because honesty with yourself during this time um, of grief turmoil. Let's put it that way. In this time, being honest with yourself is the key to finding those paths of healing, of opening
Yes.
up the doors so other people can then join you on your walk of grief, right?
Yeah.
And here's something that I remind people: don't take it personal, right? And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, think about it. You're not the only person that's going through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going through something personal to you, but there are so many other people out there that are going through something very similar that maybe you can build some sort of rapport with that can lead to some sort of great relationship, right? But you can't take life personal because you're going to have people that's going to say things to you that's going to make you upset, right? We all know these things, right? But here's the thing: they don't mean anything by it. Most people get so used to you being a certain way that
Yeah.
when now that they see you hurting, they want to get you back to being that because they don't know this new version of you that's coming. So that's why you may hear, well, you should be done now, right? No, I need you to come back because I need you as well. They forget that, hey, I'm gonna need some time, right? I'm gonna need to get myself together before I'm able to get you together. But or you may hear, you can always have another child, or
Yeah.
be glad that this and be glad that that. And I often have to tell people, I go, at some point, if I wanted to take those things personally, there'd be nothing that you can do. You would
Yeah.
have to take it. But understanding where you're coming from, I know it's not personal. You're doing the best at what you have to try to relate to me and what I'm going through. So instead of putting ourselves in these situations, I am going to separate us until, and I always tell them, don't take it personal until I can get myself together.
Yeah.
And then when I get to a place to where I have a better understanding, then I'll come and find you, right? And if you're still around, great. If not, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go on about my way and just keep it moving, right? But I think that's where the teachings come in at it, or the lack of teachings come in at. I think we forget to factor in these different levels of that healing journey, but also to be able to open up those doors for that healing to take place.
Yeah.
Because it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's very painful. I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, you made a good point on sort of, you may find along the way that some relationships do change with the people around you, or it may even end as a result of a grief, a loss that you're going through. And that is unfortunately a truth for me. And I know for others. And I think as humans, do the work that you're doing with the podcast and that, and others, of us trying to spread the word about this, because I think as humans we sort of avoid death as well. It's this sort of awful, fearful thing. Well, actually, it's as a natural part of life as being born. We are all going to die, and some people just can't handle it. And those might be the people that avoid you, or when they see you or speak to you, they avoid the subject because they just can't deal with it. And that can be very hurtful for the person who's deep in grief. But they're not living what you're going through. Grief is very unique to everyone. And again, it's a normal, natural reaction to have that anger of like, wanting the world to stop moving as such, because the world did stop moving for you, but everyone else is around you living life still. But for you, your world stopped, and for that point in time. I think you're doing very good work in educating people about how to have this conversation and help someone, open up that empathy side of you. And not everyone's going to have that. And it's just asking the person, what do you need? What do you need right now? Do you want to talk about this, or do you want to go and do something completely different? And it's just having those communication, and that connection is so key. If we can just be honest with each other, if you're honest with each other, you can't go wrong. Yes, there might be misunderstandings. I'm not saying that there won't be, but when we start trying to keep wearing that mask, to put it's when we're going to get into trouble. And we just need to be having open conversations about these topics, because we're all going to experience it. We are all going to experience it at different levels, different severities, and at different times in life. And there's Brené Brown. I love the videos she's done. I don't know if you've heard of her work, but she's got a great video on empathy, like what it is and what it isn't. And you touched on about, if you've lost a baby, and someone might say, well, at least you can have another one. It's that phrase, at least. And that is not empathizing with someone. So if you ever find yourself going to say, well, at least you can get another job, at least there's more fish in the sea. I mean, if it's a death, no, that you can't have another person alive. But if you ever find yourself saying, at least, don't say it.
I think that's where the conversations are being had. Well, starting to be more openly had now, right? Because those of us who have been so fortunate enough to do the work of the healing, we understand the importance of having conversations, of opening up the doors. And I think when we, the audience, chimes in and things like that, I think, you know, we're changing the dynamic of how we look at the traumas, the addictions, the thoughts, the, you know, the suicidal ideations,
Yeah.
grief in general, these different levels of loss. Because when you have a variety of people that have experienced similar things but have taken different roads,
Yes.
I think it adds to the relationship that we can and how we connect to not only each other, but to the people out there that are listening. Because
Mhm.
it may be something that they hadn't thought about before. Or maybe it's something that they have been thinking about and they just didn't know if it was the right way or wrong, you know, if it was right or wrong to think that way, right? And so this is where we come in and go, no, look, there's no right or wrong way to do this.
No, there
Um,
isn't.
Someone had said this on a show that I was on, and I went back and I kind of pushed back a little bit. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to that individual, but they were like, you know, this is where I had to take the shovel away, right? And I go, no, give the shovel back. They go, what do you mean? I go, because of the simple fact of it's not yours. See, that person, if you took the shovel away, they're not going to hit that version of rock bottom. They're going to come up and they're going to go right back to doing what they're doing because now they see that you're going to save them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you're going through something tough, you're going to have to go through your go through. You're going to have to hit your version of rock bottom. That way, now you know, now you have a foundation to begin to build upon. So, you know, and I told them, don't ever take anybody's shovel away from them. Let them keep going, you know, let them keep going until they hit that version of what they can't go any further. Then you can step in and go, here's a rope. It's yours if you want it, but you have to let them be able to stand up, climb up, to learn the lessons that they need. And sometimes you may have to pull the rope away and kick a little
Mhm.
dirt on them. Kick that dirt on them because that dirt, and this is just my thoughts on it. The dirt was everything that I needed in order to put underneath my feet so I can begin to climb up out of the side of that hole. And that's what I like to call the healing dirt, right? It's the healing dirt, right? Because once I begin to go through those different phases of that healing journey, I was able to pack that dirt down, step up, and when the next set of dirt came, it wasn't so heavy. And eventually, I got to the top. Yes, I was beaten, battered, bloody, tired, exhausted. I was all of those different things. But when I got to the top, I was like, I became who I needed to be
Yes.
in that moment. But during the process, I became everything that I needed in order to get to where I needed to be. So, and I
Yeah.
know it sounds crazy, but a lot of people don't understand. Like I think we talked about this before, that yin and yang. You can't have one
Yeah.
without the other. You're going to
No.
have to learn the lessons that you need to heal, to be good, um, and in most cases, just to thrive, to be brave enough to go out there and walk with your brother or your sister, you know, as they're going through it. You learn some
Yeah.
do's and don'ts. You learn how to speak. You learn how to love. You learn how to hold. You learn how to go, you know, I'll sit here with you in this moment type thing. So, but that's just my thoughts on it, you know, and that's my
No,
final.
no, I agree with you. You know, it's about walking beside someone, and not trying to fix it. Um, and yeah, someone might just need you to sit beside them and not say a word.
Mhm.
Just sit there, maybe hold their hand, and then someone might need you to sit there where they can just talk about stuff and what they're going through. And you're right, you know, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, grief and love. We need to experience polarities. There are polarities in life and death. That is just a natural law of life, as it were. But we need to, be able to find that rhythm and the balance, and the seasons and nature show us that we can't be full on all the time. There are down periods. We're not going to be blossoming at all times. There's periods where we are without the foliage, as it were. We're just a twig or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said, and it's still uncomfortable, and it's getting to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you see someone else in so much pain, of course you want them to feel better, and you want to do everything. And it is, be that supportive person for them, but just allow them to do it their way, not the way you think it should be.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And it goes back to what you said at the beginning, allowing that individual to connect with the energy. Right. Because you're going to have those low frequencies. And it's okay to connect with those, but you also want to be able to raise those frequencies as we go through the healing process.
Yeah.
And that's why I relate it to, right? I relate those different levels of energy frequencies that we omit. It allows people, the right people, to be attracted to us, to open up those doors for what we need. But also, once you get to a place where you've healed that part, raise it up to the next one, and let's work on. Let's match that energy and put that out there and see who comes and who goes. Because now, if you look at it in reality, every time someone leaves, it's because their time with you is up. It's not personal. Their time with you is up. They were there for when they needed. So now the next person is going to come. Maybe they come with you. Maybe they don't. More than likely, they're going to walk away. That's what we see in reality. Oh, not too many people stayed with us. Okay, that's fine. But who came to you afterwards?
Yeah.
Right? And then after that, who came to you after that?
Yeah.
These people, those that stick around with you, have figured out how to. They see you and they're excited, and so of course they're going to raise the energy to be along with you. And these are what we call keepers. These are people that no matter what, they're always going to stick with you. All the rest of them, this season.
Yeah.
Let them go with this. Let them go with the falling and the coming of the leaves.
Yeah.
And so I always related to that. It's the energy, matching that energy as you go through the different layers of your grieving journey, or reconnecting to those who have passed away,
Yes.
and allowing the conversation to be had.
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Sam, before I let you go,
Okay.
because I know you probably got a whole lot of stuff going on today, and I don't know what is the weather. Well, before I let you go, what is the weather like over there in the UK right now?
Oh, it feels like it's rained for a year. It's just lots of rain, and I know British. I can see you laughing there over the pond, and us British go on about the weather. But honestly, it is tipping down.
Is
And
it?
it's
Is
summer,
it? I'm
and I've
supposed to
had
be coming over to visit. And so when
oh
you say that, I was like, well, you can have some of this heat from over here if you want, right? We're in the 90s today. I will share my portion with you if you want. I will. You just know where I can ship it to, okay? Now,
yes.
before I let you go,
Yeah.
if you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with today?
Always know that you're not alone,
It's powerful.
and as we've touched on, reconnection to yourself will allow you to reconnect to others you've lost.
Mm. How can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, either under my name here, Sam Youngz, or Rubysam Youngz. It's a Facebook page. Yeah, that's probably the best place to connect. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today, and wanting to have this conversation with me. I had a beautiful time with you as well. And for everyone else who has been tuning in on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, you guys have been phenomenal. Thank you guys for rolling with us for the entire episode. If this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor. You guys see it down on the bottom. Head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, to help us get this content out here, maybe this is not your jam, but if you know someone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, can you share this with them, and let them know that they can always go back and check out many more other episodes. It's full of resources and people that they can connect with to get the help and the support that you need. Like I said, the podcast serves a lot of different purposes. The people that are up here are amazing, and they have walked the walk and they talk the talk and they know what they're doing. Reach out to them. Get the help and the support that you rightfully need and deserve from people who genuinely care about you. I am Tony Lynch. This is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We're going to see you guys in the next one. And as always, don't forget to tell the people that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And with that said, see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.